Welcome back to the second episode of Coffee with April. This time we're going to talk about why we roast coffee on the machine behind me. Why have we picked a Loring 15 kilo Falcon to roast on? And there's a few kind of simple pointers that we're going to go through, and we're going to explain all of those individually. This is not necessarily about comparing to any other machine. This is just about going through, this is why we roast on the machine that we roast, because I believe it's very important to have an idea behind the choice of roast machine and how that choice correlates to what kind of coffee you actually want to have or how you want your coffee to taste. So, reason number one, it's an extremely environmental friendly machine. So if you look at other machines, other roast brands, and you compare the models that are like the machine behind me not having an afterburner, then what happens is that this is by far the cleanest machine in terms of emissions, and that's a really good thing. Secondly, what it does is that it actually reuses energy as well. So you use a lot less gas when roasting on a machine like this, because you're working with air that is circulating. So you heat up the air in the back via a cyclone, and that air goes into the machine, heats up the coffee, goes out or gets drawn out by a circulation fan, back into the cyclone, heats up, goes to a filter, and then back into the machine, right? So it's environmental friendly, and it's using less energy than any other machine. I think that's a very important thing for us. Moving on, consistency is a key feature as well. When I say consistency and what I mean, and the main reason for why I believe it to be more consistent than, for example, a drum roaster, is that a drum roaster is mainly working with conductive heat transfer. So the beans get roasted when they actually hit the side of the drum. That's how the majority of that heat transfer is working. On a Loring, you're working with convection, so you're working with air. And the challenge is, if you put 10 kilo of coffee in this machine or in a 15 kilo drum roaster, on the drum roaster, you need all of those tiny beans, and it's a lot of beans if we're talking 10 kilos of coffee, to hit that drum uniformly and evenly to make sure that you have an even distribution of energy. This is very difficult, almost never happens. So to some extent, by default, on a drum roaster, you can never really be 100% consistent. One can argue if you can be 100% consistent on the Loring as well, but at least I believe you can be a lot more consistent. And that is mainly due to the air that we work with as the majority heat transfer here, right? We don't have to rely on those tiny beans to hit the side of the drum. We can actually heat them up evenly anyway, which I believe is a huge advantage, both in terms of roasting different batch sizes, but also just in terms of making that whole batch uniformly in terms of color, in terms of taste, right? So it just helps you with that, which is something that I really appreciate. Thirdly, what we do, and what's very interesting here as well, is I believe it to be a lot cleaner than most drum roasters out there. There's always been this discussion when it comes to Loring whether it's clean or not, and I know when it first started, because about 7 years ago when I started to roast, I worked at Mateo in Gothenburg, and they had one of the first Loring. It was a 35 kilo Kestrel in Europe, and there was so much discussion about whether a Loring could do clean coffee or not clean coffee, and most of those discussions were based on American roasters. And I think we're way past that discussion. Of course, you can roast extremely clean coffee on a Loring. I would argue probably cleaner than on any other roaster. You get that more uniform. Part of that is that it's convection, meaning that you can have actually a more uniform delta T, whereas the inner and the outer part of the bean can be more uniform in color on a lighter roast degree than on, for example, a drum roaster, where on a drum roaster, the outer part of the beans are picking up so much temperature. So if you want an even spread, you actually need a very dark core to be able to compensate for that. So we're way over that discussion. I hope Loring is an extremely clean roaster, both for the environment and also for the coffee. What you have on a drum roaster as well, inevitably, is that you will have chaff dripping down from the drum during roasting down on the burner panels that will ignite. So you always have these kind of tiny fires going on in the drum roaster underneath the drum, kind of contaminating the environment the coffee is roasting in, making the coffee a bit more dirtier, right? We don't want that. So moving on, another key thing here is just a level of innovation. It's important for April to work with companies that wants to progress, that want to move forward. And Loring is one of those companies that, since I first roasted on one, again, back 7 years ago, if you compare that machine to what we work with today, and this is a brand new Falcon, we just got a new one in about 4 or 5 months ago with all the latest features, and it's a big difference. The burner system is updated, the screen is updated, the softwares are updated. It's just a way better machine, right? And they keep on progressing, and they keep on wanting to move forward and figure out better stuff, whereas a lot of brands are simply just stuck where they are. And that's something that for April we really appreciate, and that's something that we're betting on the future in that sense, and we want to work with companies today that we believe will be able to bring the next innovation when it comes to roast machine. Because let's be honest, we need more innovation when it comes to roast machines. It's probably the segment of this industry that are lagging or falling behind in terms of innovation and progress, in contrast to all of the other aspects of specialty coffee, which seems to be actually moving on relatively well. But yeah, the key thing here was just to kind of explain why are we roasting on a Loring. It's not a coincidence. Very little of what we do is a coincidence. We're trying to always have a very clear kind of choice and a methodology behind, just a method behind why we choose to do whatever we do here at April. And we believe that our style of coffee is roasted the best on a Loring, and we believe that working together with a company that wants to push for the future is more interesting than working with other companies that are not. So we're definitely going to do more videos like this, talking more about individual roast machines as well in the future. I just wanted to kind of give you a quick run through, because I've been getting a lot of questions as to why a Loring, why not something else. One of the key things with a Loring that comes up, there's a huge price difference as well, which I understand as well. Yeah, this time was just about really giving you guys our perspective about it, and it comes down to consistency, it comes down to cleanliness, to some extent it comes down to efficiency as well, and it comes down to quality of roast and the ability for us as a roaster to get a very even spread in the coffee in terms of color on a much lighter degree than what we would be able to do on, for example, a drum roaster. So yeah, that was it for this time. If you guys like these episodes, please share. You can also subscribe to our channel somewhere down here, not sure exactly where. Please do, and we're trying to push out a bit more content. And if you want us to talk about something special, then just write a comment down here, or send us an email, and we'll be more than happy to kind of answer any questions in some kind of future Q&A as well. So thank you.